Welcome back to Let's Code. I'm Chris Biscardi, and I've been really into these shields lately. So I've been doing a bunch of work with Bevy. I've been doing a bunch of work with shaders, and Bevy 0.8 is about to be released sometime soon. And so I've been doing some work with these spheres and trying to get this intersection effect. So you can see a couple of like shield bubbles here. The top right one is trying to mimic Winston's from Overwatch. The bottom left is from Brackeys, and the top left is just some demo from Clueless on YouTube. And the thing that I want to be able to do inside of Bevy is get these lines that are lined up with the wall and lined up with the floor and implement those specifically. So the way that that works is we get the screen space pixel for the location, and we see how far away from the camera that is. And then we get the fragment for the shield bubble, and we see how far away from the camera that is. So in this case, you can see that the floor and the shield bubble are basically the same depth, and then it separates and they get further and further apart. Or this block and the shield right here are very close together, and then they get further and further apart. And that's how we get these intersection lines. It's the same way we get the intersection lines here in the Brackeys video. Basically, if the depth of the pixel that we're rendering, or also known as the wall behind this sphere that we're using, and the sphere fragment, the closer those two values are, the more we want to draw an alpha value of 1. And the further away they are, the less, or the more we want to draw an alpha value of 0, which gives us this kind of like bordering, almost emissive intersection effect. Now, Bevy can't do this today. Bevy can't do that. Well, okay, so Bevy can do this. I basically have two choices for achieving this. This PR specifically contains the support for a depth prepass. So what that is basically we're taking the depth buffer to account for the depth of the pixel that we're rendering and the depth of the fragment. And what we need to happen, because we are rendering a translucent material or an alpha blended material, is we need the depth texture to be rendered before we try to render our shader, so that we can have access to the depth of a given pixel at a given location. In Unity and other engines, this is called a depth prepass. It would be called the same thing in Bevy as far as I know, but it is not currently supported. There's an old PR from SuperDump that can add support. It needs a few changes, which they've walked me through, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to revive this PR, or the pieces of it that are the depth prepass, and then PR it to Bevy. But to do that, I need to set up a area to work in, right? So I'm going to make a contribution to an open source project. I need to take the example that I'm working on, and I need to move that into a separate project that I can then use to work on Bevy. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to set up a repo and an experiment to be able to contribute this depth prepass PR to Bevy. Now, I've already contributed to Bevy in the past, although nothing quite as substantial as adding the depth prepass. So I already have it in my repository here. So I'm going to make a new directory in my local GitHub repo set. I name everything GitHub, then my GitHub username, and then the repo, so that I can just copy that in to the browser and go see it. So Bevy depth prepass, cargo init here, open that. Now, the way that I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to do a workspace. So I'm going to create a new folder and call this shield or force field or something. And I'm going to reveal this in Finder so that I can grab this and mess it up completely. Okay, so I've moved that into force field. This is going to be called force field. I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to create another folder called vendor. And this is where I'm going to clone in the Bevy repo. So cd vendor, git clone. Actually, I have the gh repo clone, Bevy engine, Bevy. And that'll get thrown into the Bevy directory inside of vendor. I'm not going to commit that or anything. Anything inside of this vendor is going to stay just as a folder. And then outside, I'm going to do a cargo.toml. I'm going to do a workspace. I'm going to say the members are force field and vendor/Bevy. I think this is actually going to cause me an issue now that I think about it. I could do this the other way around too. So Bevy is also a workspace. So if I do it this way, then we're going to run into the fact that this is also a workspace. Maybe I'll just work in the examples folder as I do this. Yeah, that sounds better. So I'm going to back out of this and I'm going to go gh repo clone Bevy engine Bevy. Actually, I already have this. So if we're going to do it inside of the Bevy project, then I already have this here. Let's pull down main so that we have the latest. Let's git checkout depth prepass. Let's open this, which of course is already open on the other window. So this is a couple things I was just looking into. Yada, yada, close, 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 keep open. Let's look at one of the simpler shader examples. Let's do shader material. Is shader material a good one to copy? This does have a blend mode. I do want the material. There's the material. So that's good. I think that this will work for us. So let's snag this and let's create a new prepass.rs. And we'll just put this in here. And then cargo run example depth prepass. No example because it needs to go in the cargo toml or something probably. So we have so many examples, which is amazing. Where are the shader examples? It looks like these are alphabetical. Well, not alphabetical actually. Is it post-processing? Yeah, they are alphabetical. So we called this depth prepass. So we'll put this here and we'll name this depth prepass. So this is literally, I just copied and pasted the example, name material, a shader, and a material that uses it, a shader that uses the depth prepass. Does this need a special name? We can always change these names later. So we will get feedback on the PR. Whatever happens, happens. We can change this name always. We can also remove this example later if we need to. So I think that's set up, right? Then we can run this. Okay, so the shader material is here. The WGSL script is called. The example works. The only other thing that I want to do before actually getting, really started on pulling the PR in is set up the remote, which of course is going to be difficult. I really don't like that GitHub makes the site less useful when it's smaller. Let's see. There we go. SSH, copy that. And then we are on the depth prepass branch already. GR, rename, origin upstream. Actually, do we have this already? Yeah, GR. So git remote, rename, origin upstream. So I'm renaming the git origin, which is Bevy's project, to upstream. So if we do git remote -v, you can see that the git URL is now named upstream, still pointing to the to Bevy itself. And then I'm going to git remote add origin. Did I already do that? Why is it already filling that out for me? Origin and upstream now both exist. And then push u origin depth prepass, and we're all set. So now I can start working on this branch. I have an example. The example doesn't do anything with the depth prepass. The depth prepass doesn't even work yet. So I'll probably set up 1 or 2 walls and a sphere like I'm trying to do already. And I'm going to build out this example. And as I build out the example, I'm going to modify the Rust files. I'm going to go look at the PR that was already written and take a bunch of code from that because that is just the smart thing to do. And then we'll see how it goes. And hopefully I'll be making another video about how I got a PR merged into Bevy. So I hope you enjoyed that brief look into, some of the more mechanical open source kind of stuff. I'm just preparing to put in a PR, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.